Who wants to be a leader today? It's the hardest job in the world. That's why I always say the job is easy, the people are not. Really good education focuses still today on solving the right problems with the right tools. If you don't learn history, you don't know how to predict the future. What problems are we really trying to solve? Be fearlessly human, but radically principled.
Brand Minds presents the next decade of business and leadership. What was different in business 10 years ago?
You want me to give you the answer that you want to hear, that education today is all about technology and innovation, and if you don't learn how to code, you're going to be useless? Again, but I don't believe in that. I actually believe that education today is a lot more similar to 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 500 or 2,000 years ago. Really good education. Really good education focuses still today on solving the right problems with the right tools. And yes, technology is another tool. Let me give you an example. In my class, I teach innovation. I am one of the first professors who pioneered the use of AI in the classroom. But I'm also somebody who's talking about the future of the automotive industry using Henry Ford as a case study, which is over 100 years old. Why? Because I have learned that the best students of the future are the scholars of the past. If you don't learn history, you don't know how to predict the future. So really, really good education will learn how to balance both. It's that simple. And not on you.
What is the biggest opportunity in your industry today?
The biggest opportunity in education today, it's also the biggest threat, which is artificial intelligence. Mr. Bill Gates said that in 10 years from now on, educators will be replaced by AI. And I say to Mr. Bill Gates, why wait 10 years? We already have a bunch of professors and educators acting like robots, so let's replace them with robots. However, I think really good educators, and I hope I'm one of them, will understand that AI is not a threat, it's just a tool. And tools are important, but our job as educators is still to give meaning. Now, the real opportunity, however, is going to be agility. You see, we can't prepare courses 2 years in advance and still stay relevant. We have to design a lot of flexibility and agility in our environment, because at the end of the day, education is not just about content, it's about connection. And hopefully, for now, at least, connection is still a human skill.
What do you see changing in your industry over the next 10 years?
The answer to this question depends if you catch me on a pessimistic or an optimistic day. If you catch me on a pessimistic day, I would say education will continue to teach us how to make the rich richer and the poor poorer, and we will focus on the wrong problems. On an optimistic day, I will say my students will stop focusing on building yet the next app, and they will focus on big human problems: dignity, hunger, peace, health. I would love to see education work together from a multidisciplinary perspective. If we want to solve healthcare, we have to bring doctors, psychologists, engineers, business, social workers, politicians all together to solve this problem. You see, education at the end of the day should not be about degrees, but should be about impact. Should not be about memorization, but maybe more about mobilization. And once again, it has to go back to the same principle, which is what problems are we really trying to solve?
What did leadership mean 10 years ago?
10 years ago, leadership was equally hard to today. Leadership is always hard. It doesn't matter if you're doing it today, 2,000 years ago, or 50 years ago, if you're doing it with the right intentions. However, I would say that 10 years ago, leadership was a lot more transactional. It was more of a top-down command and control approach, where a formal title almost gave you full validation and full expectation that you're always right, which put a lot of pressure on leaders because they were not allowed to be humble, they were not allowed to be vulnerable, they were not really allowed to look for questions outside of their office, which means that as a leader 10, 20, 30 years ago, you had to be very, very confident that you have the right answers. And maybe leadership was less about building people and more about getting results. And the how you got those results, that was different, a lot different.
How do you define leadership today?
Who wants to be a leader today? It's the hardest job in the world. It's an emotional labor. Why? Because you have to manage very different generations. In my book, The Job is Easy, the People Are Not, I talk about how different generations have different expectations towards authority based on their relationship with their parents. So if you are afraid of your parents, which is typical for baby boomers and X, millennials and Gen Zs are not afraid, therefore they are not afraid of authority. If before it was about command and control, today is about motivate and inspire. If the boss before intimidated you, now you expect them to install a sense of motivation and excitement. They have to give you a purpose and a goal. It's extraordinarily hard to be a leader, and I think many of us would probably not admit it, that leadership used to be simpler, but now a leader has to be more than a finance or a systems or an engineering expert. You have to have the expertise of a psychologist, of a neuroscience, of a social worker, of your best friend, of a priest. It's extraordinarily complicated. That's why I always say the job is easy, the people are not. And I'm so happy I don't have to do the job of a leader today, because I'm not qualified anymore.
3 things that leaders can do to create other leaders.
If for some reason you intentionally want to be a leader, you have to understand that your job, primary job, is to teach your people how to become leaders. Now, it's very hard to think about 3 things, but I would say you have to see the person, not just the performer, which means that you have to get to know people at the more individual level, which is very, very hard, because at the same time, you also have to treat everybody equally. The other thing is that you don't only hold standards, which is a traditional leadership model, but now you have to hold space. And most of us are scratching our heads and thinking, what do we mean by that? Well, you have to balance performance with permission and personality. And then 3, I would say, be fearlessly human, but radically principled. My former boss used to say, we break the rules, but not the values. So you have to be adaptable when it comes to working with different people, but you cannot be adaptable when it comes to principles and values. So it takes a lot of emotional maturity, a lot of humility, a lot of adaptability to be the smart leader that can manage such a truly, truly diverse workforce. Good luck with that, and let us know how it goes.
Brand Minds, uniting the business world.